Good morning, good morning, good morning. We are back for another episode of the Buckeye Roast. It's your boy Ron James here with my guy QP Ski. Q, how you doing?
Favorite time of year, National Signing Day. It's time where Ohio State usually finishes strong and wows everybody as we cross the finish line.
Yeah, the
But
Buckeyes National Signing Day is usually full of flips for the Buckeyes and retention of their class, where no one ever comes and steals from the Buckeyes class of people that have been committed for months.
I'll say, yeah. And if you if you got somebody they want, you better watch out. You better up the deal because you never know what's gonna happen.
Absolutely. It's a National Signing Day special. We got plenty to talk about. We're going to talk about position coaches' grades. We're going to grade the class overall. We're going to talk about famous signing day moments and plenty more. But first, we have to start with the first comment in the chat. And normally, I'm significantly more excited to do this, but I look over into the chat and I see it is Gmo. So a shout out to Gmo. We're going to skip right past him as well and give a shout out to Emily, who was the second person in the chat this morning. Q, I guess we'll dive right into this recruiting class. Ohio State currently ranked three in the on three composite for their recruiting ranking. National Signing Day. Not sure if the Buckeyes finish at three. Potential flips on the horizon. Just your overall thoughts on this class going into National Signing Day, and how happy are you with the current uh, batch of recruits? Fourth nationally in on three and first in the Big Ten currently.
Yeah, I mean, it looks different in different places. I mean, 247 has us at number two, so we're somewhere in that top five. So, typically, usually where we are. I mean, I'm pretty happy with the class so far. I mean, I think we've probably traded some positions for others. I mean, linebacker right now, as long as it holds, looks like a pretty stronghold. And it's been a couple years since we were able to go grab our top targets there. So looks good pretty much there. I think overall it's a pretty solid class. A little something to be desired maybe on the offensive line, and obviously the run on the defensive ends we had as of late hasn't been fun because everybody is out to work. So we will see where we close there, and if we are able to add somebody else to the class, and making sure it's not only one because that position has been a little dry as of late. But look overall the class. I mean, it's a top five class, and you think about some of the misses we had and some of the guys we chased out there, and still to be that high up, I think it's a pretty good job by the staff overall here.
Absolutely. You talk about some of the guys that we chased after, and two names that come to mind in particular are I say two names that come to mind as I completely blank on the second one's name, but the first one that comes to mind is Dorian Brew, Ohio State legacy. Mother is in the Ohio State Athletic Hall of Fame, currently committed to Oregon. Were you surprised to see that one?
I'm surprised. Maybe a little. I mean, both him and Trey McNutt from Ohio. You thought at the beginning of kind of, or I guess maybe a year ago, it looked like they were going to close and get two guys that could potentially play safety that are at the 5-star level. We do get Fahim Delane, but they don't really close on either of those. So I'd say it's a little bit of a disappointment. Am I surprised? Yeah, because at one point it seemed like he was ready to commit to Ohio State, and then at the next point he didn't, and it was I guess it was a chase to get him back into the class, which never really happened.
Yeah, you brought up the other name that was escaping me. Trey McNutt, five-star safety out of Shaker Heights, Cleveland. Also committed to Oregon. It seems like the Ducks are right in the Buckeyes' backyard, but it seemed from the start the Buckeyes did not have a great shot at that one. They fall off and end up still getting Fahim Delane, the number one safety in the country. Looking at something that we discuss on on this show a ton is signing Ohio players. And when I look at the Ohio top, we always say, I don't care what you do, but the start of your class should be the first top 10 players in Ohio. And we take a look at it. Number three, number three player in Ohio, four-star edge rusher, number 55 player in the country, Justin Hill, heading to Alabama. Four-star safety Trey McNutt, number 61 in the country, headed to Oregon. He's number 4 in the state. Number 6 in the state, quarterback Ryan Montgomery. A little bit understandable brother of left guard Luke Montgomery, headed to Georgia. Noah King, number 7 in Ohio, headed to Kansas State. And then the last player in Ohio in the top 10 not heading to Ohio State is Marquise Davis. Were you surprised by any of these?
Yeah, I mean, a few of those. I mean, typically we talked about this. Ohio talent may have been down a little bit the last couple of years. Now there were some hidden gems that we that a lot of people didn't know of. I mean, you were hip to obviously the Jermaine Matthews of the world, and certain guys that you look Arvell Reese and you're like, oh, okay, and then it ends up coming out and being really great talents. But you looked at this class and you said, oh, like we're back. We haven't got to say, Ohio State has never, and Cam talks about this, has never been able to pull a 5-star safety. Well, what do you know? You got one right down the road in Trey McNutt. I mean, Dorian Brews here. He's down the road as well until he went to Texas. I mean, Marquise Davis, a playmaker running back, Curtis Samuel type that you would love to get in this class. Dwayne Galloway is another guy at corner who obviously you look at the corner room and you can't really complain as it holds, but another guy who spent his time in the top 100 that really they didn't offer. I mean, there's some guys around there, and like we said, if you in the top 10 in Ohio, you deserve an offer, and I don't care if there's 3 quarterbacks or to stack. Just try to go get them and try to get them here because you never know what will happen. You never know how the portal is going to affect. So I mean, I think they did a decent job, but I wish they were a little better because I don't want to see Justin Hill, a edge rusher down the street. We have no defensive ends almost in the class. Zion Grady's holding on. Let's hope we hold out there, but he's going to Alabama. And if he goes down there and becomes a wrecking ball, which defensive ends are the big money position, the difference makers around college football, you're going to look back, you're going to be like, we couldn't get a guy down the street that could potentially get us over the hump of winning a national championship. It'll be a little bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, that one was one that hurt me. I always had the phrase "went Woods to the O." I thought he would follow in the legacy of Mayan Williams and Jermaine Matthews and Teron Vincent and continue the legacy of great Witten Woods football players that end up at Ohio State, but it looks like he is at Alabama for now. I did want to talk about some guys that are actually going to be Buckeyes, and I'm looking at this list, and there's a few guys that have slipped out of the top 247 or higher ranked at one point when they committed to the Buckeyes. I wanted to ask you, who are your sleepers in this class that aren't maybe getting the national recognition from the recruiting sites that are in this class? I'm looking at the class, and there's probably around 13 to 14 people outside of the top 247. Is there someone in this class that you believe is a sleeper that the recruiting services aren't getting right and should be ranked higher in this class that the Buckeyes may have gotten a steal on?
Let me think. I don't know about a guy. I mean, I've seen guys being late risers. I mean, the guy I had pegged from when the time he committed, and I'm guessing they're starting to get it right, is Bogpin Miller at receiver. I mean, he's now up in the 200s. But when I saw that guy, I mean, obviously he wasn't playing receiver, he was playing quarterback, but just the athleticism, I'm like, yeah, I don't care what he's playing. get him on campus, and we will figure it out. But as far as a position group that I thought closed really well, and it's not really talked about, but a fantastic job. You got to look at Keaton Bailey and these 2 tight end commits that he has coming in. I mean, both of those look like absolute dudes coming out here. He continues to stack talent. I know we gave him criticism yesterday and said, is he developing on the field to the best of his ability? But hell, he's out here recruiting, so he's doing something. So definitely, that's a position group where I look at and I look at those 2 guys and how well they're playing, and I'm like, all right, like let's roll. Let's get them in here. Let's get them developed, and let's continue to improve this position. So that's the one I would look at and say I am very satisfied with the guys we brought in there.
Yeah, I mean, you look, Nate Roberts and Brady Lennon, both 2 good gets for Keenan Bailey, and we know he hasn't, his recruiting success hasn't been due to lack of effort because, I mean, bro was out in the trenches, got his car taken from him during his past recruiting cycle. So We know that Key is not afraid to get out there and recruit. I know I asked for one, but I have two names that I want to mention as sleepers. Deshaun Stewart, and this is your sponsored
Oh,
SFE segment of the day. You know I was going to have to represent for my guy. SFE alum Deshaun Stewart, safety out of New Jersey. We've had success recruiting New Jersey as of late. Legendary Buckeyes like Kyle McCord and Cody Simon. Buckeyes have been having success in New Jersey, so I think that will continue with Deshaun Stewart. And another guy that is probably my favorite get in this class because it was at a point where Buckeye fans were screaming, "We don't have enough bodies in this offensive line room." But I probably still agree with that statement. But when Justin Fry was able to go out and sign Javon McFadden, I thought that was one of the best gets of the year. I think he's a super underrated guy. I hope he sticks with the Buckeyes because I know Colorado is making a huge push for this kid, and I think easily one of the best grabs in this class and at a much needed position in a room that is light on bodies. So Justin Fry being able to go out there and get Javon McFadden, not in the 247, but I think that is a guy that is absolutely going to be a Power Five starter one day and be an asset to hopefully the Buckeyes.
yeah, him and McFadden was a guy you absolutely had to have, and there's still some guys you probably have to have that aren't going to be in this class. But you look at the class and the guys we did get will definitely serve well. It was also too about getting enough bodies in there and developing talent. I mean, we've seen the offensive line this season, and unfortunately, injuries have ridden us. And like I said, once you hit one domino over, it was like, oh no, we're in trouble. So definitely, if it's by hook or by crook, by recruiting or by portal, you got to continue to stack the talent in here. And Jalen McFadden is one we've had circled for a long time. Of like, I don't care what you got to do, you got to get this guy in the class, and he's an absolute dude. Comes from back home at Riverdale, so school I used to go to. So hey, shout out to him.
I did not know that. He went to your alma mater?
I mean, I wouldn't really call it my alma mater. That's actually the first the first school I ever went to. It was a Baptist school, so it does K through through 12. But I was there for a year, so
Shout out to
I'll
Q
take
making
it.
that happen. We'll give you all the we'll give you all the credit for that recruitment. Justin Fry, ooh,
Hometown get.
had to put Q out on the trail. I wanted to move on or maybe circle back. You brought up at the beginning of the show, it feels like signing day has not been an exciting day for Buckeyes in the Ryan Day era. I mean, the
Since NIL
Jeremiah
started.
Smith recruitment, we had to sweat out all day. As I mean, we saw the Hayes Fawcett interview this week talking about he did have a Miami graphic ready. I don't know if you guys follow the Levitard show. Their executive producer is a huge Miami booster and has also hinted at the same that Miami was pushing until the final hour before the Buckeyes were able to secure the deal. We have seen plenty of surprise signing day flips. The one that comes to mind most to me is probably Terrence Brooks because everybody woke up that morning and everybody was saying everything looks good, but we haven't heard from Terrence Brooks. And then he flips to Texas. Q, do you have a notable signing day flip for or against the Buckeyes?
Yeah, there. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, that 22 class. I mean, you can go just as a class absolutely got ramsacked when Ohio State didn't really know what NIL was. They were like, oh, the switch is on. All right, bet. Let's go get
Bro, they thought they
everybody.
were going to sign that 2022 recruiting class with nothing but Christmas cheer. And everybody was like, that's not how this works anymore.
Yeah, so definitely it has took time to adjust. I mean, last year I think, and I actually funny, I actually just went back and watched one of the old live streams we had after the Edric Houston commitment, and just the talks of, oh, like the defensive line. This is kind of the year. You look at the Justin Scotts, you look at the Lightfoot from Chicago, and how well that class was going, because you still look at the defensive line and it's like, well, really, who's you got some guys in there, but it's like it looks a little thin coming into next year. Yeah, they actually ransacked that, and those guys were out, and that was the one where I was like, I thought we thought we had turned the corner, and it was like we get down the stretch, and next thing you know, Miami comes calling. It's like, yeah, we're going after all your guys. So that was probably the more recent one where I was like, we got to get this NIL thing together. We gotta get guys over the line, because it seems like the other schools that are in our bracket and kind of in our range are able to do it, and Ohio State continues to struggle with that. I mean, everybody gets a flip here or there, but you can't look down and your half your class is gone. So most definitely, it has been a rough streak, but it's a new signing day. We'll see how we adjust.
It is a new signing day, but I fear it may be more of the same. There are three names in this class to keep an eye on for potential flips today. Naeem Offord has a five-star cornerback, number 12 player in the country, has been committed to the Buckeyes since, I believe, February. And a lot has been made about this recruitment over the last 3 months between Ohio State, Auburn, and Oregon. I feel like this one is going to come down to the deadline. Ohio State usually puts out a propaganda post right before signing day where they get every kid to reassure the Buckeye Nation that they are going to be arriving in Columbus here in short order. And we didn't get posts from two players in the class, Offord and Alford. I don't know what it is with these names, but it seems like both of these commitments are going to come down to the wire. Where is your confidence level with both of these recruits? And one other name that I wanted to throw in there that there has been speculation that of a potential flip around, Zion Grady. Those are three names that Buckeye fans should probably have their eye on today and keep an eye out as far as potential flips. I see someone in the chat. Are we landing Offord? I hope so. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if the Buckeyes are able to close in the final hour. Hugh, which one of those are you most concerned about, and what is your confidence level with those three?
All I don't know. I mean, obviously we have Devin Sanchez. He's locked in, so that gives you a good corner piece at corner if you lose the other. But Offord, it honestly would suck to go almost from start to finish, and we're on the last day, and this is just for any player. Losing any player on the last day is obviously rough, especially a corner, because Tim Walton put a lot of faith in Offord, and he's gone after him. And his dad has continued to say he's not flipping, and he's staying. We will certainly see. I mean, that doesn't really mean much right now until he signs the dotted line. And it's like, see, he told us, but that's one you definitely close on. But Alford in Florida, I think is kind of the piece here of James Laurinaitis has gone out to re-up the talent in this linebacker room. I think that one of anyone is maybe the most important. We know how Florida kids have been, and it's hard to keep them, especially at the end, because other schools start to get desperate. It gets down to the line. And I'm like, well, maybe Ohio State needs to adopt this formula, because it seems to be working. That's really the end, and really go after a guy. But that's the one where completing that with Eli Lee and Riley Pettijohn, that's kind of a class you really want to keep together, as the linebackers, as we talked about before, are kind of gonna shift, and you're gonna, you get Arvo Reese as a junior next year. You don't know the kind of the future in that room, and the kind of future in that room is kind of in this class if you're just looking at high level talent according to the rankings. So that's one. That's probably the more important one to me, but I think they're all important. But that's the one I would pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think Offord, especially with the questions I mean, we're going to be losing at minimum two starting cornerbacks. I feel like the depth is going to take a little bit of a hit in the cornerback room. So I would like to see the Buckeyes be able to bring in Devin Sanchez and Naeem Offord. I think that would be huge for that room. As far as the most concerned, yeah, that's easily the one that I'm the most concerned about. We'll see what happens with TJ Offord and Zion Grady, but it seems to be an Ohio State tradition to lose at least one player on National Signing Day. But we talk about the Buckeyes losing people on National Signing Day. There is another name to keep an eye on. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to find him, because I'm going to butcher his name. I've been staring at it for 5 minutes, and I'm still not sure how to say it. It is Epi Citinelli. I'm going to go with the edge rusher in the UCLA class, number
I
one
like commit.
recruit in the UCLA class right now. The Buckeyes have been making a push for him. We've been talking about how thin the Buckeyes are at the position of edge and not really having any in this class. Confidence level in the Buckeyes being able to continue to raid Chip Kelly's former roster.
I mean, the only reason I really didn't pick Zion Grady is because that it seemed like those dominoes at defensive ends have already fell. So it's like we really couldn't afford to lose any of the three we've had, and now we're down to one, and maybe, and he's kind of on flip watch as we end here. I mean, it's very important to hold him in the class. And as far as getting another guy, if it is the commit from UCLA, which I'm not going to butcher his name on here, so I just I just won't say it. Say UCLA commit. Hopefully we can get him in. I mean, the one silver lining here is the portal has started. You've seen guys kind of enter there, so I expect them to attack heavy. I think this is an important time for Ohio State and their roster management. I know there's a lot going on. There's a loss to Michigan, weighing over everybody, but right now is kind of the time where you look at the depth at some places. D end, there is almost no one there for next season. You got to go out and get some guys. Offensive line, we know about the injuries devastated them. If you're not going to get it done through recruiting, you definitely got to get it done through the portal. So holding on to guys and maybe flipping a guy or two would go a big way in closing out this class.
You talked about Keenan Bailey earlier in today's episode and applauded him for his class that he was able to put together. I wanted to give grades to the position group coaches on their classes. And we'll start with Keenan Bailey. He signs two coveted tight end commits or recruits in this class. How would you grade Keenan Bailey's signings of Brody Lennon and Nate Roberts?
I think it's a B plus job. I mean, they were among his top targets coming in, and then we always, at the beginning of the year, we kind of get the rankings and who Ohio State wants and who they prefer, and kind of that list going down the line. I mean, those two guys have been up there among probably his top 4 or 5. So definitely getting two guys in the fold, and you put on their tape, you're like, hey, these dudes can ball. They're athletic, they're big, they're strong. I mean, we look at the tight end performance on Saturday. It wasn't where we needed to be. Now that may be a little bit in developing. You have to develop and get those guys ready to play. But as far as raw materials and bringing them in to create a finished product, I mean, they're fantastic. So I got to go B plus for Keenan Bailey.
I don't know who we're going to give this credit to. I mean, we don't have a quarterbacks coach on staff. I mean, I guess you could call Chip Kelly the quarterbacks coach, but I'm not giving him this grade. Tavian St. Clair, it's been 23 minutes into the show, and we have not talked about the number 3 player in the class. The Buckeyes go out and get the hometown kid. I mean, I wouldn't say hometown, but home state kid, I guess we could say. Number 3 player in the country, number 1 player in the state, Tavian St. Clair, 5-star quarterback. For a while, a lot of people thought this recruitment would come down to Tavian St. Clair or Ryan Montgomery. The Buckeyes choose Tavian St. Clair. How big of a get is that for the Buckeyes?
I mean, massive. I mean, I guess we could put Chip and Day in the combination, since we're both cursing them out for their performance on Saturday. We'll give them a recruiting grading as well. I mean, it's got to be an A for them. David St. Clair at the time was not ranked where he is now, and as soon as they got him in the fold and he got out and did some camps, completely shot up the rankings to almost the number 1 player in the country. Very important. The stronghold of this class feature at quarterback is as much talent as in that room. I don't know if we necessarily have a clear picture, but one thing we do know is Tavian St. Clair is coming, so that definitely helps out. I mean Ryan Montgomery, if you added him to the class, maybe we could have do an A++. Tavian St. Clair, the number 2 player in the country, it's definitely got to be an A.
Yeah, agreed there. You can't go wrong with Tavian St. Clair, and it sets up a battle for the ages as far as the Michigan guy versus the Ohio State kid, as far as Bryce Underwood versus Tavian St. Clair for potentially the next, I would imagine neither one of them play next year, but the following 3 years after that. I wanted to pivot to a first-time coach at Ohio State, running back. We end up with Bo Jackson and Isaiah West for Coach Locke. A grade there for Coach Locke in his first recruiting class with the Buckeyes.
I have to go B. Bo Jackson was very important. Marquise Davis, I really wanted, didn't quite get him, but you got two of the three you kind of wanted, and we got to wait to see what Turbo Rogers does later.
Yeah, Turbo Rogers, another flip candidate to keep an eye on. The Buckeyes have been crystal balled for a flip there as well. You brought up Marquise Davis, who is also, oh, nope, already flipped. Went to originally committed to Kentucky, recently flipped to Missouri. He is the number 9 player in the state of Ohio. I wanted to stay on the offensive side of the ball, and Ryan Hartline, usually the star of National Signing Day, highest rated recruit is formerly mentioned Bogpin Miller, uh, former high school quarterback. I'm sorry, how the hell did I
Yeah,
skip right over
Quincy
Quincy
Porter.
Porter? Quincy Porter, I'm sorry, number 4-star wide receiver, number 95 in the class. Brian Hartline's top recruit in this class. It felt like this one was going to come down to the wire with Penn State shuts down his recruitment, locks in with the Buckeyes. How huge of a get is it for the Buckeyes to be able to retain Quincy Porter? And how would you grade Brian Hartline's wide receiver haul in the 2025 class?
Absolutely massive. I think Quincy Porter is in the line of the big wide receivers that we've had come through as of late, and like yeah, they're physically demanding and give me as many of those as possible. As far as the class, this is a little more of a developmental class. It feels like I would give Brian Hartline probably a B. But I think this class, if you look back in a couple of years, I mean, Desi Jones can ball. This has the potential to be an A class, and Philip Bella here. So we'll see what they do. Right now, I would say B, but I still like the class a lot. Bob Pitt Miller is as talented as any player in the country.
I think that is a great call there. As far as offensive line, much has been made about Justin Fry's recruiting, lack thereof, and the numbers in the class. He goes out and gets borderline 5-star tackle Carter Lowe, 5-star in my book, number 34 in the nation, Toledo guy. We spoke about Javon McFadden and then Jake Cook, another Ohio guy out of Westerville. A little low on numbers, but I do like the guys that he put in this class. How would you grade Justin Fry's offensive line class in 2025?
I would say a C plus. Not enough guys here, and obviously two guys are in state, so you got to do a little bit better. You got to be a little bit better, but it's a good corner piece. If you can hit the portal, you're doing all right.
Absolutely. I think it's no knock on the guys that we have in this class. I just think it's more of a numbers thing and the misses that the Buckeyes seem to have been close on. I want to pivot to the defensive line. Zion Grady is on Flip Watch today. We have Maxwell Roy signed, and then uh, Jarquez Carter. I'm looking through Trajim Odom. I'm going through these names, and I'm outside of the top 240 as I look at Larry Johnson's class. How would you grade Larry Johnson in this recruiting class? It seems like Larry does not have the juice that he used to have on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, if I could split it into the D tackle class, I think is a B plus. I like the talent there. Maybe not the rankings of 5-star guys, but I think they all can ball. So hopefully we can keep them. Josco Carter was kind of on flip watch coming in. As far as defensive end, it's got to be a C minus. I mean, Larry's kind of sold these last couple of years getting guys over the finish line, so he's got to do better as he closes out his career here. So we will see what happens with that.
I want to pivot to another person who will be signing their first class, James Laurinaitis. We talked earlier about TJ Alford potentially on Flip Watch, but he does have Riley Pettijohn. If you guys are interested, we interviewed Duke Pettijohn, Riley's father, here on the Fans Edge a few weeks back. So if you want to take a look on the channel for that interview, had a great conversation with him. I think that was a huge get for the Buckeyes, 5-star linebacker. How would you grade James Laurinaitis' class?
If he keeps them all, I'd probably say an A minus. I mean, going into Florida and Texas and getting very coveted guys is important. If he doesn't hold Alford, I think that minus it down to a B. So we will see there what happens. But A minus as it currently stands.
Shout out to our guy, Charles Green. Soon we will talk about Amari Thomas Green, number 1 edge in 2030. Keep an eye out for him. And of course, shout out to our guy, Cam. Thanks for the 2. Day 3, Schumann time. Also, who's reporting early? I do not have a list of early arrivals, people that will be enrolling in the spring, but I will get that list for you guys tomorrow after we have a finalized class, two more position groups to talk about the cornerbacks. We talked about Naeem Offord being on potential flip watch. We do have Devin Sanchez already signed. How would you grade the cornerback class recently flipped? Cornerback from Cincinnati, Jordan Woods. Tim Walton doing a good job of filling out this class. How would you grade Tim Walton in this recruiting cycle?
Yeah, if it currently holds together, I mean, you got to give him an A to the two best corners in the class by ranking. Jordan Woods coming in at the end. If he loses Alford, I'd say you're probably down to probably like a B-ish class. But the corner room is the one room that you can take a hit. I think they're very deep and talented, and he's done a great job with it.
And lastly, someone in a red hat that does the show once famously said, "This is bullshit as a blank check hire. This guy's never recruited anyone." Matt Guerrieri signs the number one safety in the country and follows it up with Cody Haddad. How would you grade Matt Guerrieri's first recruiting class here at Ohio State?
With Fahim Delay,
and Deshaun Stewart. I'm sorry,
Deshaun Stewart, Cody Haddad. Guys, I'd probably put it at a B. I think this was the biggest boomer bust room where it looked like we were really going to close strong and do something we haven't done in years. While Perry Eliano got thrown out the door, that wasn't possible. You get the number one safety. That's a good starting point. So we'll see what he does. But I have to say a B right now, maybe a B.
Yeah, I have to give him a B, only for the simple fact that we did not sign the 5-star in-state talent from his hometown.
Yeah, gotta do that.
Can't get an A with that on your resume.
What Mike say he was the plug in Cleveland. No one knew him like Matt Guerrieri. Got Arvell Reese.
Sorry for a little bit of a short show today. We got started a little late, and your boy has to run because I'm a minute late for a work call. But I did want to get to this super chat. Let's go. Herschel Jean, thanks for the 10. Let's go Bucks. Glad we closed the seal on Fahim. I'm guessing that's Fahim. Thought that he would Auburn for a second, but I am keeping a close eye on Naeem, hoping he signs. That's definitely going to be the name to keep an eye on today. Fingers crossed in all of Buckeye Nation that Naeem Offord ends up sticking with the scarlet and gray. Q, I hate to rush us out of here, but you got to let the people know where they can find you because your boy is running late.
You can find both of us on Twitter today as the signing day closes out. I have that he's free. City Boy Quitting right there. Stay locked. Shout out to Mr. Sanchez in the chat. Welcome to the Buckeye family, of course. Very happy for y'all. Ryan, get us out of here.
Absolutely. A big shout out to the Sanchez family and welcome to Buckeye Nation. We normally give out the Captain Buckeye Award to a single player that leads the charge in the recruiting efforts of putting together the Ohio State class. And it seems like the Sanchez family took on that role this year, not just Devin, but the entire family. So shout out to the Sanchez's and excited to have you guys as a part of Buckeye Nation. And shout out to our guy, Doug. Thanks for the 2. Just because. If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at 2Ts. It's 2_TES. You can find us here weekdays for the Buckeye Roast, Monday through Friday here at 8 a.m. And you can check out our guy Mike tonight with Terry T for the Fans Edge here tonight on the Best Damn Media channel around 7:30. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, and you guys know how this ends. It's always go Bucks, and of course, OH.
Ayo.
Oh, I keep forgetting to play the outro video. I forget how to do the own show.
Done that twice.
Yeah.